I don't know. It's just another dragon's about to come out. No, literally. No, literally. Like, I'm not, like, it's anybody that's listening to this, and if you've made it to this point, you're one of the committed listeners, for sure. Winter is coming. Welcome to another episode of Around the Way podcast, where we help you get around your obstacles and find a way to redesign your life. We are here. We're back. We are filming this on a Monday, so hopefully this drops on a Monday. And it's been a great weekend. I think there's been a lot of different things realized. There's been a lot of things that we've come to grips with. You cannot put more expectations on a person that they're able to meet in that season. That's one thing. That's what we're going to start with. You cannot put more expectations on a person that they are willing to meet within that season. Not saying they won't ever get there, but you have to recognize who you're talking to. You have to recognize where they are, and you have to recognize what's most important to them in this season. One of my mentors said once, I said, what is a good book for me to read in this season? He said, what are you going through? And I was like, what do you mean? He said, it's not about me just passing you a great book, because there's a lot of great reads out there. But I'm going to give you a book that can be able to better help you and assist you within the season that you are in order for you to get out this season to better receive the next thing that you actually need. Why would I give you a book on financial literacy if you're going through a deep, dark, traumatic period in your life? Why would I do that? Everything has to be seasonal. My season is ending. And I'm moving towards another season. So now I'm looking for new mentorship, new coaching, new books to read, new realizations, even a new church to join. All of these different things, because the person that I was in the last season, I'm not going to tell y'all how long that season was. The person that I was in that last season is no longer the person that you guys are hearing on this podcast every time that you listen to it, right? So the person that you once were doesn't need the same book that would have got you to where you are right now. The person that you are right now needs something new, needs maybe a new relationship or enhanced relationships, maybe needs new perspectives in regards to what you're reading, maybe even needs a new way of commuting to your new destination. It's like when you get up and they've rerouted you, or let's say they built a new highway that not a lot of people knew about, and you're so used to going on the main highway, but you knew in the back of your head that they built this new highway that not a lot of people knew about. It says something about you that you haven't taken the new highway and you would rather sit in traffic instead of actually getting to your destination a little bit quicker. That is the story of a lot of people's lives right now. That's the story of my life so many times. So, Kiana, I see that you're writing, and until you cue me in, I'm going to keep going in. You know what I'm saying? But I
interrupt your thoughts.
Facts. And I think, that's literally one of the biggest things that I realized this weekend is that, you can communicate the best of your ability, but you can do so many great things, but until somebody is able to receive what you are delivering, the actual product will never arrive on their driveway. Until that person places that order in their shopping cart, what you're actually wanting to send them will never get to where they actually are.
No, I think that's a good point. I think that's a really great point. One thing I wanted to touch on from what you were saying earlier, I think it's so interesting as you enter into different seasons, and you hear this so often that, I just reread this book for the 5th time. Or I read it last year and now I'm reading it again.
Colton said that.
Yeah.
Literally.
What's so interesting, though, is there are so many things that I think, the virtue of books and of people is that when you read that book in the last season you were in, you might have missed what the lesson was supposed to be in that book, because you weren't there to
weren't.
receive it. So reading it now in this season, there's so many times we pick up the book. It's the same book. The book has not changed. There is no new addition of words or chapters, but you all of a sudden get something new from that book because you missed it. You weren't ready for it the first time. I think it's the same with people. Like, how often do we have parents or something like this, and they've been telling you the same piece of advice
Facts.
for 25 plus years, but now in this season, you're able to receive it. Inversely, there are so many people that you may have around who maybe in the last season, you got so much from them. And then this season, what they're pouring does not add anything.
Facts.
So I think it's so interesting how the season that you're in can manipulate how you perceive certain things in that new season.
It's interesting what you said. So I was listening to something years ago, and I said this during a speech. Like, wow. Like one of my first speeches, right? Years ago. And I was listening to a presentation. Somebody came in to our school. This is when... where was I? I was living in Atlanta at the time, and I was volunteering at this school. Somebody came in, a guest speaker. She was in fitness, and she came in and she talked about how she had like a bag of chips and a bag of carrots in her hand. And she said, who could eat this bag of chips? The whole bag of chips. It was like a big bag, like one of the supersized bags. And the kids were like, me. And then the kids, then she held up like the same size of bag of carrots, right? And then she held up the bag of carrots and she said, who could eat this bag of carrots? And then, like, a few kids said, me. And she said, if I was to pay you $100, who would try and who thinks that they could succeed eating the whole bag of carrots? And everybody obviously raised their hand.
Right.
And it was interesting what she communicated. She was like, as easy as it is to eat this whole bag of Lay's chips, is not the same ease of eating this whole bag of carrots. And, she continued to kind of like discuss and educate the kids on, like, when you're eating a whole bag of chips, there's no nutrients. So it tricks your body because, like, there's nothing going into your body, so your body doesn't burn it off the same way. So you can keep eating it because your body doesn't see it as something that we need to break down, right? But she was saying when you're eating a whole bag of carrots, you will get full faster because it's actually adding to your body and its nutrients in it. So your body identifies this as something that is kind of like it shuts down the tank.
It's like stopping it.
Yeah, it stops it, right? So what you said about pouring, and you talked about how in this season you're pouring into something that I'm not even receiving. So I think a lot of times, this is the message. I know y'all with me. A lot of times, we have people around us that serves as the Lay's chips. We can eat them. We can talk to them. We can engage with them. We can want them all day long. We never recognize how they're filling up our tank without filling it up with anything good that we will pour out back into the world. Versus, I have 5 friends now in my life, 5 people that I talk to on a regular basis. Those serve as my carrots. But when they feed me, I leave those conversations different. When I work with them, we leave those meetings differently. When we engage or go on vacation, we leave that vacation differently. So I think anybody that's listening right now, does your actions, behaviors, decisions, relationships, all of these different things, are they carrots or are they chips?
I think that's so good. I think that's such a great message. I think the unfortunate thing about you have these people that are carrots is that the same way your body says, I can only have but so much of that, but you always want chips like all the time. It's like it gives you that false sense of like a craving for a person that's really not doing anything
At all.
But then when it comes to the carrots, it's like, I acknowledge that you're good for me. I acknowledge that you fill me up. I acknowledge that you're nutritional and that I'm going to leave better because I consumed you. But even still, your body will tell you, but I can't have too much of you. Like, there comes a point where Like nobody's ever really gotten full off of chips. Like you could just keep eating them and keep eating
literally
them and keep
all
eating
day.
them.
Like the tortilla chips.
Yeah.
Yo, let me tell you something. We can eat those
I know.
all day.
And you just keep wanting more and more and more, not realizing I'm still hungry though.
It's a dependency on it.
Yeah, it creates
right?
that dependency. But like with the carrots, like I know that you're great, and I know that you're doing great things for me, and I know when I get on the scale, it's gonna look different. I'm gonna feel different. I'm gonna see changes in my body. Like all together, it's gonna be better. But even still, I can only like something is gonna tell me to keep a certain amount
like
of
some
you.
balance.
Yeah.
Yo, the interesting part of that, right? Like I don't like my homeboy Dante. Like we don't talk every single day, right? And I think about the friendships that I used to have that they would literally call and text every day. I wouldn't respond, or I would feel like a need to respond, so I would. But now in my life, I can't have those friends because I can't be on the phone with you all day, every single moment of every single minute, right? Now, when I do talk to these people in my life, it's very interesting because we may spend an hour or two on the phone once or twice a week, but like it's literally we're talking about investments, about religion, about our spirituality, about our children, about our character, about integrity, about what's going on in economics, about those different things. And I think about that one conversation outweighs the 17 conversations with somebody else that we had during a week.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. But it's not even that you don't need a lot of it, you can't have a lot of it. You don't really need a lot of it. It's really interesting.
You can sustain yourself from a little less of that.
Exactly.
In relation to the conversations about the lady at the store.
Just stupid stuff.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you even say like you can sustain yourself with less of it, because if you really think about anything, right? If you think about anything in your life when you're trying to get fit, you don't need to work out in the gym for 3 hours every single day.
Right.
You give me 30 minutes a day over the next 30 days, you're solid. You don't need to run 12 miles a day.
Right. You don't need to lift weights.
You don't need to lift a refrigerator.
Yeah,
who does that? When in life are you going to be lifting a refrigerator?
Because even people like fitness people will tell you, like, if you are working your arms every single day, you're going to have muscle fatigue.
Exactly. So if you're working that area and if you're giving to something that you got to rest in, you have to be able to have that all-around perspective. That all-around perspective. We're going to go on a commercial break.
All right. All right, we are back. We are back talking about getting poured into and the seasons. I think it's such an important conversation just to acknowledge what season you're in, what season you're heading in. Because if you don't acknowledge what season you're in, you can't identify what you need in that season. And the hope is always that you progress to the next season, you know?
Nah, facts. Nah, I was thinking about something, man. One of my homeboys called me the other day, and he was talking about all his, he was talking about who he was getting advice from, this advice that he was getting. Right. And before he even, so I asked him, he was like, yo, I got advice from blank, can't say the person's name. At the moment where he said that he got advice from that person,
you already knew.
I already knew that it was about to be something stupid.
I want to hear this at the end, who this was.
No, literally. Literally. So it was interesting because he went on and on and on, and he was talking about all these different things that the person advised him to do. And I know that other person, their lifestyle. And one thing that somebody told me, they were like, when you take advice from somebody, you take on the lifestyle of that person, right? So I thought about like, yo, like, it was kind of interesting because all of the things that the person was advising my homeboy on, they had not done at all. Like at all, or they don't currently practice. My boy David posted something last night. He was saying, ask your business coach for their bank statements. And then in the caption, he talked about like there's a lot of people talking about all these different things, but ask your coach, ask them for their receipts, because I think there's a lot of people that says they're coaches or they're doing this or they're doing that or doing these other things, but they don't have the actual receipts to back it up. So going back to the story, the message here, right? Because he was telling me all this advice, and then he asked, obviously, my advice at the end of it. What did I think of the advice? This was my answer. I said, one thing that I need you to do is check your source before you actually even ask for advice. And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, well, one, Why did you feel the need to go to this person for advice when you know they are not even in the season that you're wanting to go in, and you've already surpassed the season that they're currently in? And then he responded to me. He was like, "Oh, like, what do you mean by that?" And I was like, you have to take advice from two types of people: a person that is currently in your season, a person a person that has gotten out, has been in the season that you're in, and has already surpassed it and is going towards the season that you're working to go into, right? Yeah. So when I just gave my explanation, he understood what I was coming from. And then I was like, you have to check the source before you actually put your plug into the wall, or you're going to electrocute yourself, right? Because I think a lot of times, like, have you ever like tried to put like a plug in a wall and it actually doesn't work? So it's not even charging your phone. When you think about like you're plugging things into walls that are dead. So how do I expect my phone to be charged if I put the charger into my phone and I put it into a plug that doesn't work? That's like me actually putting my dreams into somebody else's hands that are dead plugs. They're not going to charge up or advance or empower my dreams at all.
I have a question for you. I know you kind of started this talking about you're headed into a new season.
Facts.
Are you concerned at all that, based on what you were just saying about either aligning yourself with people that are in the season that you're in or in the next season over, once you switch seasons, are you concerned that there are any people or situations in your life right now in this season that won't be they won't
cross
in alignment.
over.
Yeah, because now anybody who's in this season, the same season as you right now, shouldn't, based on what you said, shouldn't go with you to the next season because they're a season behind.
Nah, that's facts. So to answer your question directly, yeah, that's challenging to know that.
Does it concern you at all?
Nah, it doesn't really concern me. And the reason why is because when I got in my last relationship with my son's mother, I recognized that she wasn't going into the season that I was going into. And it was a very challenging situation. And I feel like I stayed in that relationship longer than the expiration date. It was kind of like I was drinking 3-year-old spoiled milk, right? And not to that extent, but more so saying like when something's expired and you keep it around just to see it in the refrigerator or just to see it, next to you, versus actually recognizing that it's time to give this up, right? Yeah. So as I move into the season, this next set of season, right? Because I've gotten out of that season, moved forward, now have cultivated amazing relationships. But now, even though you've cultivated amazing relationships, those amazing relationships, some of them won't be able to go into where God is calling you into the next season. Now this takes me actually trusting in my faith more. And it's interesting. When I started recognizing that I was in a new season, I went on a fast, got more connected, and cultivated this deeper relationship with God. And now I believe that I'm more prepared and equipped to go into this new season and receive the blessings that God has for me in front of me, because he's now provided me. This last week was the best week, like dead ass. And you knew how challenging. I know. This month, anybody listening, like I'll talk about my receipts. This month was tough financially, literally, because a lot of the work that I did in February, was administrative work. Yeah. So it's challenging. It's kind of like it's like three lanes in business, right? There's operations. There's I feel like there's operations. There's administration, and I feel like there's sales, right? Like operations is actually running the business. Administration is like setting up the business, and sales is like going to get that bag. Yeah. I feel like it was a lot of working the business. Operations. We working. December, November, January was all about sales. Once I got the people in, though, it's like, oh, snap, I missed the mark administratively. So now I got everything solid administratively. Now I have everything solid operationally in regards to like team and everything. And then it's like, I don't have time to sell nothing, right? So we took a hit financially in March, but
let's call a spade, Kyle.
No, we still made 5 figures, baby. We still made the 5 figures.
Let's not mislead the people. He is not living like some people are probably living when they take a hit. Kyle's hit is still better than most people.
I still made 5 months teacher salary.
Right.
So.
And probably half of what some people's whole year salary, like literally.
No, literally. Damn, that sounds
some
good.
People, well, yeah. I'm not
that
gonna
does
put it out
actually
there,
sound. We're not going to put it all the way
I'm
out
not
there.
gonna put it out there. But I'm just saying, like, keep perspective.
No, keep perspective. So I say that. I use that not to just talk numbers or business, but really to use that from this perspective. This season was God. I really believe that God had to eliminate something from me, right? So it wasn't a season of business this month. This wasn't what this month was for.
Right.
This month was for sustainability. Like God said, I'm going to provide you with everything that you need. Your staff has been paid. Forgot to run payroll last week, but that's besides the point. Your staff has been paid. Your podcast is back rolling.
Yeah.
This is happening. You went on this fast. You did this. You honored God. All these things. So I'm gonna take care of you, Kyle. But this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take care of you. I'm still gonna allow you to go on vacations. You're gonna live. But what I'm going to do is help you realize the relationships that don't need to be in your life. I'm going to help you realize the decisions that you have to make. I'm going to help you realize the conversations that you have to have. I'm going to help you realize how to not run from your transformation, not to run from me, but hold on to me. I got you going into this next season. And what I also have is relationships waiting for you on this next side. What are you writing?
What is something that God is telling you to do that you're still working up? Either the courage to do or the strategy to do it the way he's telling you to do it?
Ask that question again. That's a great question. I don't know.
Do you want me to ask it again or you don't know?
I want you to ask it again because I feel like give some background.
Okay, because what you were just saying is that through the fast, you acknowledged and were maybe better able to discern things that God wanted you to do, some steps he wanted you to take, some people, I think you mentioned that maybe whatever, some conversations that needed to happen, this, that, and the third. Is there anything still, when we think about the checklist of the things that he's telling you to do or has told you to do or that you received during the fast, that you haven't yet completed or checked off the list because either you're working up the courage to do it or you don't exactly know? Because I've been saying that a lot this season. They probably haven't seen it yet, but just trying to figure out exactly what is God telling me to do and what that looks like.
I'm going to work through this.
Okay. I see you
I'm going to write it and work through it. So I think there's 3 conversations that I needed to have in this season, right? So, well, probably not 3. So as I wrote it down, because anybody that's watching right here, you see me writing down. I'm kind of writing down my thoughts as I'm thinking through it. So I think there's probably 5 things that needed to happen in this season, right? There's conversations. I had to have conversations with 4 people that are really close to me in my life.
Okay.
Obviously, you were one of those conversations. I feel like I had to have a conversation, with a friend of mine. I had to have a conversation with somebody really close to me. I had to have a conversation with my pops.
I think you're missing one.
Nah, that's literally it. These are all the conversations that I needed to have.
Okay.
Yeah, so once I had those conversations, stuff started moving. Now, I haven't had one of these conversations. I haven't had the conversation with my pops yet, but we're going to have that conversation before the end of the month. Because I realized that there are some things that I had been harboring. There's some things that needed to happen. So there's some things that needed to take place. That's 4, right? Is there another one? Oh, nah, yeah, that's 5. That's 5.
Missing one.
There's 5. Nah, there's 5. So there's 5 conversations. There's 5 conversations that I needed to have. Anybody listening, yo, we having a good time over here. So there's 5 conversations that I needed to have first, right? And I feel like, interestingly, all of those 5 conversations, all 5 of those relationships had to die before I could move on.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to preface this. Obviously, I said my dad. Obviously, 4 of these other people are not my dad, but people very close to me. I'm going to give y'all some game. Just because I said the relationships had to die doesn't mean that I have to end the relationships.
That's what they thinking because you said one of them was me.
That's not what I said. I believe that because I have been made anew, because I'm a new man, I cannot go into this next season with those same emotions towards that person, boundaries that were not established, emotions that weren't communicated, different things that weren't said, et cetera, right? I believe that we had to kill the old way that we engaged with each other so that we could be able to accept, empower, and love each other differently in this new season that I am in, right? Once I had to realize, but that first took a few things. I had to first, like, actually take some time realizing, like, all right, how is this relationship affecting me negatively and positively? Second, will this relationship sustain itself in the next season? 3, if it will, or if I want it to, what will have to happen? 4, if it doesn't, what will have to happen? And then number 5, what does God need me to be for this relationship? Once I asked myself those 5 questions, it was like, well, some of these relationships ain't gonna make it. Some of these relationships will definitely make it. But Kyle, I think one of the biggest things that I've realized is that I run from a lot of things, right? I run from tough conversations. I run from conflict. I run from challenges. And I don't ever run from it in business.
Yeah.
I always run from it personally because I don't like to, 1, make people feel bad. I don't want 2, to get real emotional in the middle of conversations. 3, I don't really know how to communicate sometimes what I'm feeling without degrading the other person or without them taking it personally. And then 4, it's just challenging sometimes. It is. Like, it's challenging being able to talk to somebody about, like, look, you did this, this, and this, or I perceived this is how this made me feel when you did this, or we can no longer move in this direction because of ABC, right? So having those conversations are definitely tough. That's why I saved my dad for last. But the conversation that I'm going to have with him is my expectation for him, right? And so I'm going to talk about it on here. So I feel like my dad is literally everything. Like, honest to God, he's such an amazing man. He's a great father, great husband, he served the community, his mentored, coach. I get my community, like, really being about the community from my father. And I look up to him in all ways, like, always. And I think because, he's invested so much in other people, he's given up on himself. And he's not, like he always likes to say, he ain't no spring chicken anymore. Like, he's, in his 60s now. He can't really maneuver the way he wants to. But I don't ever want him to give up on himself, right? I don't ever want him to lose, like, that grit. I don't ever want him to forget, like, he's valuable. I don't ever want him to forget that, he's still an amazing man, regardless of his career status. Like, he's still a dope-ass human being. So I want to be able to have a conversation with him because I feel like it's hypocritical him being able to push me, love me, have grace for me, forgive me, and just help me aspire to be the best man, father, godly man, businessman that I can be, but he's not. Or, I do this to be able to help him too. You know what I'm saying? So I want to be able to have that conversation with him. And I put this out there to y'all, to public, because I want y'all to realize that I'm not keeping nothing away, and this is still my therapy. But it's also to force you to have those conversations with the people in your life because those people may not always be in your life.
That's true.
And I would never want anything to happen to him. And I'm harboring feelings that I wish I could have just communicated to him and expectations. And then maybe I can gain another perspective as a man on why he feels the way that he feels. You know what I mean? So I think those 5 conversations are important. And we're going to go on a commercial break.
All right, we are back. I think Kyle was in the middle of a thought. That was our last commercial break, I promise. Where were you at?
Nah, like, literally 5 conversations that I had to have. I had to realize that I got to stop running from things. I got to stop running from things and start running towards God.
So is that once that last conversation with your dad is done, will that complete the checklist for this? Do you think that will propel you to the next season?
Conversations with them, a conversation with myself, already have conversations with God. Boundaries will be put in place. I feel like from these conversations, systems will be put in place. Systems have already been established. And I think I'll be prepared to propel myself in this next season. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a great question.
Thank you.
Are there some things that you believe that you see?
No, I think what you're saying, obviously this is your journey,
Yeah.
So I know based on my beliefs about religion and my faith that until we won't go to the next season until we really do hone in onto what God is telling us to do. So that's just why what I was wondering, because I know you made the statement like you see the next season, like you're on the horizon of the next
literally
season,
see it.
which would imply though that there is something here, a lesson that you needed to master, which is what has kept you in this season. And so that was just the...
Yeah, I think the biggest lesson is run towards God and stop running away from challenges. Be a man of integrity in all situations. Be unapologetically honest. And I think the last one is don't ever forget who you are at the core of who you are. I think if those 4 things are the things that I've learned in this season going into the next season.
Do you see another fast coming?
Yeah, definitely. So on April 1st,
I didn't know that.
I'm gonna start a new one, and we're gonna make it the whole month this time.
Ooh.
Yeah,
oh gosh. Okay, let me ask you this. So, because I have this belief that when you go on a fast, weird things happen.
Nah, facts. I do.
And I remember I asked you that one time. I was like, dude, like weird stuff be happening.
Yeah, it'd be real
or like,
weird.
Or sometimes really
weird.
bad stuff will happen, and it's like a challenge to like figure it out in the middle of this.
Hell yeah. So it's interesting because when I was going through my fast, I didn't make any money the whole week. No, like none. Like $0. Like
no
that's
subscriptions.
And I was like, yo, like, God, you playing with me right now. I'm about to hop off this fast. Nah, for real. Like, I didn't make any bread. But the next week, the crazy thing is, the next week I had 3 payments coming, bang, 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 that I didn't even know, that I forgot about. And then this last week, it was like, bang, 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 bang. And it was crazy. So it was like, literally, I feel like it's money is the thing for me. Money, like, I feel like because I love it so much and because I go after it, I feel like that's the first thing that's tested. It's like I'm gonna stop bringing you clients, or I'm gonna start having your clients decline, the payments is decline, or just weird situations start happening. And for me, I think another thing, not only just money, but is, women as well. I think, it's crazy. And we always used to talk about this in college. When you're in a relationship, all the women see you.
They know.
When you're not, it's like it's hard to get any hits. Like, it's like, what am I doing here? I feel like when you're in a relationship and you're on Tinder, you get all the matches. When you're not in a relationship and you're trying to just really engage with somebody, you don't get no matches. It's like you don't get love. It's like wolves.
Yeah.
It's crazy, son.
It's
so
like I can smell it.
Literally, and it's weird because like I feel like for me, that's the biggest lesson that I learned is definitely self-control. Live by the fruits of the spirit. He talks about it in Ephesians. But really just being a good-ass person. I really am embodying the principles that I want to be able to be like when I get older. And I'm a good-ass dude. Like, for real. Like, I show grace for people. I love people. I'm doing a much better job with communicating in, crucial situations. We still have flaws. Yeah. But I feel like I've finally started to celebrate my personal growth. I'm working on celebrating my business growth. I think that's because personal stuff was much more important for me.
In this season.
Just in general. Because I knew I had a lot of holes personally.
It was longer to go.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. Literally. So I feel like it's interesting because it's like as an athlete, as an ex-athlete, when you finish up your championship game, or not even the championship game, when you lose your last game of the season, right? You recognize this is your last game. It's kind of like the conversation in the locker room. It's like, we had a good season. Everybody did this, and this. But tonight, we're going to just, we'll talk about this in a few weeks. We'll have a meeting tomorrow. So then in that meeting tomorrow, after you've had some time to reflect, your emotions kind of died down a little bit, recognizing that, this is it.
Yeah.
You have a tough conversation with your coaches on all the different things that you need to work on in the next season. Oh, I didn't know where I was going with this until now. So you have a conversation with your coaches on all of the different things that you need to go or do in the next season. So from the whole summer months as a ball player, the summer months is when you go to work. You're in the gym. You're working on your body. You're working on your mind. You're working on your skill. You're looking at tape. You're watching film. You're eating right. You're spending time with your family. It's training day, baby. When you come back, that's literally when your coach has the ability to now choose a different starting five. So it's interesting because I've always won the sixth man award from God's perspective. I was never on the court, on God's court. I was never on God's court. I was always coming off the bench because I would always operate in a space of less than what he needed me to put out. Right. So I wasn't operating in my full potential because I was fearful of what I could really do. I really believe that this is the season that I'm working on. This summer months in this next season, I'm working on all of my skills. I'm working on all of my body, my mind, my spirit, so that God could put me as the starting point guard in my new season.
Okay. I'm going to ask one more question, and then I'll let us...
I like that.
What do you think for this next season that you're going into, what do you think is going to be one thing that happens in this season that is going to be surprising to other people?
Surprising to other people? That's a great question. I'm not necessarily sure because I feel like I think one thing for me that will be surprising for other people is I'm going to begin to start communicating more personal things.
Really?
We always have, and I feel like this is what birthed this podcast, right? And specifically this season. I'm going to own who the hell I am.
Okay.
Off of Instagram.
Ooh,
right?
What does that mean, Kyle?
And I feel like, I do a really great job. I've always done a pretty great job with communicating on Instagram, the brand, but not the person, right? Y'all don't know me.
What you wanted people
Yeah,
to know.
like this season, y'all are really going to have the opportunity of getting to know us from a personal standpoint.
Yeah.
I want to do a better job posting the person and not just the position.
Okay.
That's this season. So I'm going to give them a glance of, not even just a glance, y'all gonna know me. For real, because it's kind of one of those seasons where it's like love it or hate it. But you're going to love it because like everybody that's around me loves me. But yeah, talking about, my relationship, talking about the different things that I experience in relationships outside of my relationship, talking about just different things, because I believe why we started this podcast. Why we started this podcast is to be able to really pull the curtain back behind the story of the brand, right? Pull the curtain back. So it's kind of like you want to pull other people's curtains back, but you're keeping your curtain closed with like a electric fence with barbed wire.
Don't get over here.
With a window though, so I can see, but I really can't get to it. You know what I'm saying? So I really feel like that's one of the biggest things that I'm working on in this season, because I've been fearful of that, to be honest.
Why?
Because you could criticize my business, but you can't criticize me as a person.
I used to say that.
Yeah, like, with Stoney.
That's why she was there.
So like now it's kind of like if people criticize anything personally, it's kind of like
you don't really know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's one of those situations. I don't know, like, so I think that's the biggest thing. I feel like it's going to be continuous work.
When does that season start? You think it'll start after your fast? Or
I don't know. I feel like that season is beginning. I feel it's different. It's like
you feel compelled to want to do these things.
Yeah, I'm like a really big Game of Thrones fan. Like the last season, anybody that watched that last episode where my man, like, it was awful. It was an awful day in my household that day because it was just awful. Like y'all had 7 amazing seasons in every episode. Killed it.
You were so disappointed.
I was so disappointed.
That episode.
No, literally.
I didn't watch it, but I watched that episode with you. And you were just so upset.
I was so upset.
And then you called your dad. Like,
yeah, we were upset together, like everybody. And I use that example because winter is coming.
Ooh.
So when y'all are in the summer months, I'm in the winter months. My winter is coming.
I wish we had more time because
we do have more
time. I
time.
want them to know what does that mean.
It's just like mean? I don't know. It's just another dragon's about to come out. No, literally. Like I'm not like it's anybody that's listening to this, and if you've made it to this point, you're one of the committed listeners for sure. Winter is coming, and it's one of them situations where in Game of Thrones, right, when winter is coming, a war is about to come. you know it. Like, you know it.
That
A war is
such
about
a
to
great
come.
analogy, Kyle, because once you become more, once you allow people in, it does create. It's like not letting them in creates something, because people make assumptions, people overstep boundaries
Facts.
that they don't know are there, like all these things. But once you let people in, it does create more stuff, like different
Facts.
stuff.
So that's this season. So
Yeah.
this season, silently, I've been getting my sword together. Whoo, my sword of the spirit together. Let me tell y'all something. I've been getting the sword together, because when the fiery darts come, I'm protected.
Yeah.
I have the armor of God to protect me, but not even just in a spiritual sense. I've literally been preparing myself and building my castle. My castle is my boundaries, my expectations. So now when the enemy comes, I can't allow him in. See, before I didn't have boundaries in place. Before I didn't have a castle.
Yeah.
I just had land. So just imagine a farmer. You can always run up in him and take his crops and all these different things. But if you had a castle in place, you can't just take it. You can't just do what you want to do, right? It's not about you. So I have a castle in place. I'm building my my infantry team. Like, my people around me that are going to protect, that are going to literally be my archers on the roof to be able to shoot things down when they walk up, or protect me, protect the kingdom. Right? So I'm building my kingdom. We're establishing some things. And this is Around the Way podcast. And we'll see you guys next episode.
Bye, guys.